Councillor Chapman, you have a motion to be able to hear the delegations. This requires 2/3 of a vote.
That move that the delegations of Judy Yeager, Kathy Cumming, Jeff Davis, and Martin Field be heard. It also requires a seconder, Your Worship.
Thank you. Need a seconder on the movement. Councillor Kerr, thank you very much. All those in favor need to see your hands, please. Opposed? That's carried. Judy Yeager. Judy, if you could come forward, please, to the center console, please. When you're ready, there's a button in the center of the console, and you'll have 5 minutes for your delegation, okay? Thank you very much. And if you could just pull your microphone a little bit closer to you, greatly appreciate it. Yeah, hit the button again for me, please. Is the light on? Okay. Needs to, hello?
Not plugged in.
Okay, try the other mic for me. No? Try the other mic.
The other microphone's not.
Sorry.
Not plugged in.
They're probably both not plugged in as well.
No, just give us a sec.
Wait to see Jeff Davis. Delegation.
No,
That doesn't leave him tomorrow.
Hello?
There you go.
There we go.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Carter and members of council, for allowing me to speak, even though I know I didn't speak at the community services meeting last week on this issue. I felt compelled, though, to speak tonight because the recommendation from that meeting changed somewhere between last Monday and tonight's meeting. So previously it had indicated that crossing guards, the direction would be for crossing guards to be implemented, and it now reads to refer it to staff. I wanted to share with you a little bit about the situation at Mary and Roslyn, because I want it to be considered as you look at this recommendation. As you know, I've been both to committee and council before on behalf of the residents of the area with regard to community safety and mostly around traffic, but also raised this issue since 2017 about the need for a crossing guard at one of the most dangerous intersections in Durham region. The best way I can describe this to you in an easy manner was to share with you that this morning I went and sat at the corner of Mary and Roslyn from 8:30 until 9 a.m. I don't have little kids going to school, and I thought I should see firsthand. I also on the weekend spoke to a number of parents in my area to find out what their experience was, and if it, in fact, they didn't let their kids walk to school now, would crossing guards at that corner give them any further comfort to allow their kids to walk to school, or would they just ignore it and continue to drive them? Because a number of parents drive their children because they're afraid to let them walk to school. In my block, we're, less than 2 blocks from the school, and the kids can't walk to school because the traffic on Roslyn and Mary both have considerable issues with speeding and aggressive driving. So this morning I stood on various corners. In one instance, when I crossed the street, I actually thought I was taking my life in my hands. I know I'm not tall, but I thought people could see me, but apparently not at 8:30 in the morning when everybody's in a rush. So what I observed, if you wonder, so I saw 5 individual children on their own crossing at the lights to go to school. It's S.J. Phillips School that I'm talking about. I am not including kids that looked like they were going further down Mary, perhaps to O'Neill. So 5 individual children on their own. 3 individual adults with children. One had 2 children each, of the other had 1 child each. I also spoke to another adult who actually was driving her children to school. And I followed up with a conversation because I recognized her and said, why are you driving your kids to school? And her words were, it's too scary to let them walk. I also, from people I talked to over the weekend, had people who sent me emails, and just one of the things that said, I've got 2 kids and I won't let them walk to school because of that intersection and the frequent accidents and red light running. Durham Regional Police Services, when they were on our street in 2017, said the same thing about it. It's a dangerous intersection. The crossing guard that was there temporarily refused to cross the street, and he's talking about Roslyn, which was ridiculous. A crossing guard there is a necessity, and he goes on to say a number of things. But there's a very strong feeling of parents in the area that a crossing guard would help considerably, that they would utilize the services of a crossing guard. I know it's not an easy thing, and I know my observation of 10 children in, 25 minutes, give or take a couple minutes, may not be huge numbers, but if you're a parent of one of those children, and they're, our smallest citizens, they require extra protection. In case you're wondering, some of the other observations I had there, in terms of looking at what was happening, is that in terms of the behavior of cars, lots of orange and red light left turns and turns onto Mary Street, so right turns through red lights. The digital sign on Roslyn that's going as you're heading east on Roslyn, so past Mary, and you're going over towards Ritson, was blinking a lot, and I don't know what the threshold that Durham, the region has set for that, but it certainly would indicate that people were speeding, including a transport truck that changed lanes 3 times between Masson and before it hit the digital light, which isn't very far. And it wasn't because of any obvious reason. It was just decided to change lanes from left to right, which could be, pretty dangerous. Cars heading east routinely exceeded the limits based on my observation of the light, the digital light. And remember, this is a community safety zone. Cars going west were racing to make the lights. And in fact, I guess there's a new way of doing that, and that is when you get to the intersection of Mary and Roslyn, particularly if a car was turning left to go south on Mary, they just lay on their horn as they go through the intersection. And that was more than one observation, it was several. So I presume those are people who habitually use that and know that that intersection can be a bit tricky, so they just use their horn. And I guess that's what horns are for, but that might scare little kids. On Mary Street, north and southbound, my observations are a fair number of people accelerate as they're getting close to the lights to try to make the light. And so again, children waiting at that corner to cross. If you have ever been at that corner, and please feel free to sit there for a half an hour, there's very little boulevard. So one parent I talked to said he even takes his kid and stands on someone's lawn when he has to wait for a light, because there's very little boulevards. So even a small fender bender where they, get thrown, off the road is going to be very threatening. And it's only, that intersection has had lots of more than fender benders, very serious accidents, and it's only by good luck that it hasn't been when children have been standing at that corner.
Judy, I need you to wrap up, okay?
Yes, I will. So I beseech you to actually go back to the original recommendation and implement crossing guards there versus sending it back for more study. It's been an ongoing issue. I'd be happy to participate in any discussions or to get other people in the neighborhood to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. If you'll stay there, please. There are some questions from members of council in regards to it. Councillor Kerr, I saw your hand first, so good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your delegation. It's great to see concerned citizens coming in here with issues. Are you aware that at the regional council meeting this Wednesday, they're going to vote on a pilot project for red light cameras at a multitude of locations, identified locations in Durham Region.
I am aware that the region is considering that for multiple, and our regional counselor made me aware of that, and I know that somewhere on that list, our street is listed, but I don't believe we're anytime soon, so that certainly would be a welcome piece. Several of the parents have mentioned that to me. But again, that is after the fact, and a crossing guard is before the fact.
Correct. I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
I am aware that the region is moving that way and would welcome that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kerr. Any other questions to the delegation? Councillor McConaughey, good evening once again. You have the floor.
Good evening. Thank you for your delegation. At that intersection, the crossing guard, do you envision it on the east or west side crossing Rossland?
My guess would be the best place would be on the west side crossing Rossland. So the heaviest traffic seems to be in the mornings, and I think, kids, if we knew there was crossing guard there, parents could perhaps get kids to cross on Mary. So it's the kids, on the east side of Mary that are problematic. But perhaps we can get them to cross where it's less busy, further down. I'm hopeful with the work that we're going to be doing with the Committee on Traffic Management. We can look for solutions that help crossing on Mary Street itself for all pedestrians, not just children. But obviously an immediate concern is our smallest people.
And can I ask, because I'm through that intersection a lot, but I can't visualize, are there the lime green school crossing signs?
Nope.
Nowhere. Okay.
Nope.
And have you ever seen painted on the road big letters, not in Oshawa, but elsewhere in other communities, school ahead or slow down, like really big letters?
I have seen those, and in fact had a conversation on a couple of occasions with a couple of the people in the traffic management group about, do we, and I used to live in Newmarket, and I've seen there where in a lot of school zones, they're going to a lot of painting on the roads, essentially, and much like you have on Athol Street, it's a visual reminder to drivers, so does it alone do anything? I don't know, but anything will help. Personally, I think that it would be very good to have those two lines crossing where pedestrians are supposed to walk, because what I observed this morning was a number of cars as they come, because they're trying to get through the light before it changes, they're often stopping across those two lines. And so they're not stopping even so the kids are going to have to go around. What I saw this morning was not scientific, it's an observation. I believe that if I sat there every morning, I would observe the same thing. I would say to you, in this room, like I know it's being recorded, but I would say to you, one of the worst things I saw this morning, one was a Durham Region vehicle, and one was a police car.
When you say Durham Region vehicle, would that be a bus?
A works vehicle. No, it wasn't a bus.
And yes, you've done a study of that intersection, so you probably have heard that there were accidents where the cars ended up right on the front lawn of that house.
Yes, I observed them. I have pictures if you'd like them.
Yeah.
There have been two fatalities at that intersection. Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, Judy, thank you very much. You'll also notice that some of the major intersections, especially on regional roads now, have larger paint markings in regards to the crosswalk area. I think it's an initiative that's being undertaken across the region. So just so you're aware of it.
Yep, so we can get on the list. I'd be happy.
I really appreciate your delegation, and thank you for your work in our community.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great night. Our next delegation is Ms. Kathy Cumming, in regards to DS 19149, which is our Welcoming Streets program. Ms. Cumming, if you could take the left or your right seat, please. My left, the other seat. Yeah, because that mic's not plugged in, I don't believe. Why don't you get yourself settled? I believe the microphone may be still on, Kathy. If it's not, press the button that's in the middle console for you, and you'll have a total of 5 minutes for your delegation, okay? No?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff. In July, I went to the building owners and businesses and employees of our downtown. I heard stories about knife fights, feces behind their establishment that they had to clean daily, young men climbing on their roofs with their possessions and bikes, shooting up and leaving the paraphernalia behind, as well as loitering and thefts. The building owners also spoke about having fear confronting the homeless population because of fear of retaliation on their businesses. Many of the owners were frustrated with the lack of police presence in the downtown and the answers they were receiving from the BIA. I read an article from the Oshawa Express on the Welcoming Streets program from Guelph that the mayor wants to bring to Oshawa. So in early September, I took a drive down to see for myself and to talk to the businesses. I spoke to the First Lady, and she was in a business about a block and a half behind the drug injection site. She was nervous at first to talk to me, but when she said to me that her biggest fear was having to work nights and having to walk past the injection site. And I guess this is just normal, but she would be shadowed or followed. So 2 blocks down on the left-hand side would be Ontario Housing, and that's where she would live. So I guess this is a normal procedure for the police, I guess, to drive by the Ontario Housing because many assaults have taken place. She herself has been assaulted because she wouldn't let the people at the injection site in, thereby using the stairwells and that to sleep in.
You're speaking about Guelph, are you
Yeah.
not? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure.
Oh,
Please
okay.
proceed.
Yeah. The next business that I went down to, I went to the opposite side of Guelph, on the farthest corner from the injection site. It was a bar like Riley's. And I asked the employees and the manager about the Welcoming Streets program, and they looked at me and said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I said, well, I'm down here because Oshawa wants to implement it, and I would like to find out, how well it's doing. They said, well, you're more than welcome to sit down and wait until our owner comes back. But I said, so what would happen if somebody came in and created a disturbance? They said, well, we would call the police. And that was the end of it. So then I walked across the road to another business. It was a sporting store. And I spoke with a young woman there. Her mother was the co-owner of the store. And I had said, did you hear about the Welcoming Streets program? And she goes, yes, her mother had attended something at the BIA. She had received a card. She put it in the drawer. But then she goes into describing what had happened to her mother, that upon exiting the business 2 weeks before that, somebody had thrown a 26-ounce bottle of liquor out the window and had landed just at her feet. Her mother was now looking at going outside the downtown and moving the business. I had also put out some emails to some other businesses, and basically there was another woman that got a hold of me when I came home. And she contacted me and said that she has many customers come in and tell her that they don't like traveling to the downtown because of the homeless situation. Yes, the Welcoming Streets person does check in with me once in a while, and I have her number in the drawer. I'm excited about the new no-nonsense cop that has just been hired for the downtown area. She would like to see 2 officers if they have the budget. And I from going around the downtown, I noticed that, again, that was the business owners as well. If they could have 2 police officers, they would like them 24 hours a day in the downtown. They think that that's what would help. Conclusion.
The conclusion that I draw is that both communities would reject this program for the most part. If they wouldn't put themselves in danger, then they are not going to with an unarmed social worker. They understand the danger of someone on drugs and would prefer to call the police. Remember that ambulance attendants, when responding to an overdose, call for backup. The police downtown send their officers out in twos. I don't think it's right the city council would have someone on their own that would be in harm's way. I would take a pass on this program because it does not meet the needs of the individual it serves or the criteria of the downtown businesses. That's the end.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Just hold on. I imagine that there may be some questions from members of council. Members of council, questions? Councillor Neal, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your delegation. I was just going to ask, did you talk directly to the person that was looking after that program? What?
In Guelph?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Councillor Gray. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you for your delegation. So it's your, I assume it's your belief that we should put this on hold and do a little more research before we jump into it, given your cautious approach surrounding the person who would be doing this job.
Yes, I would like to see a team of two, but I'd also like to see a Made in Oshawa team. So you have Guelph, and they have certain circumstances, but Oshawa has their own as well. Again, today, another person, a young person, was confronted in his backyard, and he was knifed by two thieves. I mean, it's very dangerous out there, so I don't want them going out one-on-one. And I know that they have police backup, but when you have police backup, then what's the sense of having the one person? Yeah.
Now, just an aside, when I met you at an event, you had mentioned that you believe we're already advertising for the position. Is that
I
correct?
seen a position for Welcoming Streets program, and it was on Indeed.
On Indeed. Okay,
yes.
a pretty big recruiting
Yeah, site.
job site.
Yes.
And the best of your knowledge, this hasn't been approved yet.
No, not that I know of.
Okay. And does that raise any alarm bells with you?
Well, I thought democracy had basically been taken away, but other than that, I mean, I thought you have to come back to council to, vote on money issues. So
Fair
I
assumption.
wasn't sure.
Fair assumption. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Just for clarification, my understanding is that job posting is put out by Caria Community Health Center. That's a direct position that they've required, just to let you know. Just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. Young person that you heard that was stabbed in his backyard was because two individuals were trying to steal his marijuana plants. That's my understanding
Yeah.
also. So, any other questions to the delegation? Councillor McConkey, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for your research. Did you talk to any of the board at the BIA to find out their involvement here at this point?
Yes, I talked to them while I was volunteering for Cars on King. And at the same time that they were talking to me, there was people calling on their microphones, or what is that called, radios, to phone 911 because there was fights in Memorial Park. So the staff left and dealt with that, and I finally went home. So, but I should have gone back and asked more. But I had talked to the businesses. This is where I'm coming from. I talked to the businesses, the employees, the business managers about what they see. Yeah.
So you went into the downtown businesses and asked them specifically about the Welcoming Streets program, or
What were their problems that they were facing daily? What were their stories? And to present a petition, once again, about the drug injection site. So
you have a petition signed by the downtown businesses?
yes, 95% signed the petition against another injection site.
There is no injection site in our city.
I know.
This
I know.
council,
No, I
this
know. I
council
know.
made that quite clear that
Yeah.
they weren't going to support that at this
I
time.
had no idea that once it went down, that it was a year to come back. So that was my error.
So, Mayor Carter, if I could continue.
Yes, sorry.
What did you do with the petition?
It's just sitting in your information packages for now. I guess it'll wait until the next time that we come up for another injection site.
Okay, so that petition's in our information package. Thank you. Have to look that one up. So you weren't coming to speak on that?
No.
You're talking about the
Welcoming
Welcoming
Streets program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that information.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, Kathy, thank you very much for your delegation. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you for your work on behalf of the community. Welcome Mr. Jeff Davis to the podium to speak about DS 19149, the Welcoming Streets Initiative.